Hey there, welcome back. It's Chris. I'm the founder and chief conversion copywriter at Conversion Alchemy. In this video, we're going to look at SaaS copywriting, software as a service copywriting. We're going to see why it's one of the best niches to get into in 2023. I'm going to share the pros and cons of being a SaaS copywriter. And we're also going to take a look at some of the good types of SaaS businesses and not so good ones. Finally, I'll share the first step to get started in SaaS copywriting. So let's go. So why is software as a service copywriting one of the best niches in 2023? Well, if you're a copywriter or just getting started, software as a service is one of the fastest growing industries today. Let's go on the computer and look at some of the statistics. So, for example, demand for SaaS copywriters has been growing. A search on LinkedIn revealed over 35,000 software as a service copywriter related job results in the US alone. That's crazy. Another one, global copywriting services are growing as well. The global copywriting service market size is projected to grow from $25.29 billion in 2023 to $42.22 billion by 2030. That's crazy, and a growth rate of 7.6%. Another one, SaaS companies are growing like crazy. There are about 30,000 SaaS companies globally, with 56.67% of them being in the United States. And this is a not so well-known one, or one that you might not think of, but think about the cloud service, right? Everything that's web-based in the cloud. Cloud service market is growing as well. So it's expected to reach $623.3 billion by 2023 worldwide. So that's crazy. All of these data points tell you why SaaS is a really good market to get into, but what are the pros and cons of being a SaaS copywriter? I've been a SaaS copywriter since 2016, and I can tell you that the pros far outweigh the cons, but let's dive into it. The first pro of working with SaaS companies is that you are at the forefront of tech, and especially today with AI. The best way to see it is not as your competitor or as something that can steal your job, but rather as something you can work with. And when you work with SaaS, especially today with all the different tools out there, you inevitably will stumble on AI and you will be able to harness its power. When you work with SaaS, unless you're an in-house copywriter, so if you're a contractor like myself, there's lots of different products, different markets, different industries, different types of tech that you can work on. The second pro of working with a SaaS company is that you constantly learn different market, different products, different tech stacks. It's never boring. The third pro of working with SaaS companies is that there's a lot of moving parts. So you might end up writing website copy, email copy, ads, but there's also product copy, right? So the micro copy that you will see in all the tools that you typically use. Finally, and this is my favorite of the pros of working for SaaS companies, there's a lot of strategy. I'm not only a copywriting nerd, I'm also a strategy nerd, and that's why I love working on strategy for SaaS companies, which can include anything from the types of product, types of pricing that they offer, the structure of the business. You might work on different types of business models as well. There's one-off SaaS, there's trial SaaS, there's freemium SaaS, and a lot of times as a copywriter, your work might even influence pricing, which is awesome. So it all sounds fantastic, right? But what are some of the cons of working with SaaS companies? If you ask me, not many, but there are two that I want to highlight. First, if you're not into tech, I would say forget it, right? So there's a lot of tech involved in SaaS. It's going to be a lot of jargon that maybe you're not familiar with or you don't want to be familiar with, right? So consider that. The second downside of working with SaaS company is that the learning curve might be steeper compared to other types of industries and markets. So compared to traditional direct response copy or copywriting for information products, that type of copywriting that you might see on long form sales pages for courses, for example, SaaS copywriting might involve a lot of rather technical skills, which I would actually say they contribute in making conversion copywriting what it is. So skills like conversion rate optimization and user experience design. When you know those two, you're gonna be highly valuable. If you don't know them and you have to kind of get started from scratch, the learning curve might be a bit steeper. Awesome, so now we know the pros and cons of SaaS copywriting. Let's look at what makes a SaaS company and product a good fit for copywriting services. First, it's important to understand the different sizes and phases of SaaS companies if you want to know how to approach them and to get your feet in the door. Based on the revenue, the stage, and the size of their team, for example, we typically define SaaS in 3 different phases. We have early stage, small to medium, and enterprise. Let's see what early stage SaaS companies are all about. Early stage SaaS companies are those that are just starting out. So they either have no revenue or they're making a couple $100,000 a year, and they have a very small team of 2 to 4 co-founders typically that cover a lot of ground and different roles. These early stage companies, contrarily to what you might think, are probably the best place to start if you are just getting into copywriting. First, they are operating on budget constraints, right? So their resources are limited and they need focus, and that's why they are prioritizing the necessary activities over the luxuries. That's where you as a copywriter come in. Another important thing to consider when working with these early stage companies is that, as I mentioned, the team is super small. So it's really easy to create trust and work closely with them. So if you wonder how you can help them, well, first thing, their audience is not probably yet defined. And that's where they're gonna need a lot of research, and that's where you come in again. Early stage startups are also more likely to pivot their strategy and product, and that's because they are still at the early stage and are validating. They are agile, ready to move fast, and constantly looking for fresh copywriting talent. Another important factor, especially if you are a copywriter who's not only into words, is that these companies are very early in their brand development as well. So if you like working with designers, this is a very good opportunity. Last thing that I think it's awesome about these early stage SaaS companies is that they are probably looking for capital. So they are likely about to raise either a seed or Series A type of investment, and that means that you are in for a lot of materials to write. So it's not only web or email copy, but think also pitch decks, so all the materials that they're going to use with investors. That's stuff that a good copywriter can write. Next, in the SaaS stages, we have small to medium, and this is where we typically see companies between 1 million and 6-7 million in annual revenue, and a team of 20 to 100 people. This is the sweet spot because at this stage, these companies have a strong base of monthly recurring revenue typically. They might have investments coming in, and they also are cash flow positive, which means they have quite some money to invest in you. These companies also have established and predictable sales and marketing funnels, which means they know how much a customer is costing them, they know how much a customer is worth to them, and all of this makes it easy to get research data from customers and also to test a lot of different things for copywriting. As I mentioned earlier, another important thing to consider for these small to medium companies is that their team expands, right? So you have between 20 to 100 people, and the roles are much more clear than an early stage companies. So you might have the founder, the marketing department, the sales department, customer success, product management, and other different roles. All of this for you as a copywriter means that it's so easy for you to get information from inside the company and get up to speed for your project. As I mentioned at the beginning, if you're into strategy, consider that for small to medium-sized businesses, the customer base is wider as well. So you might work on different customer personas and different approaches for strategy. So if you're into that, this is very good. Another big point when it comes to small to medium companies is that they are scaling. Here, the focus shifts from proving the business model to actually growing it, which means that they might be entering new markets, offering new products and features, and growing their customer base. What this means for you as a copywriter is that these companies will likely have validated copy that works already, and your job is just to take it, work on strategy, research, and improve it. Also, there's gonna be a bigger focus on conversion rather than lead generation. So converting, selling current traffic to the website, for example, compared to actually generating and attracting more people. Finally, we have enterprise SaaS. These are companies that make between 10 to 100 millions plus and have teams of 200 to even thousands of people. I wouldn't recommend working with enterprise companies because the barriers to entry are higher. They will likely have very complex and multifaceted products. Their team dynamics are gonna be very different and complex. And the customers that they are trying to sell to are likely going to be different types of personas and users. So there's lots of research involved, lots of, again, strategy, but at these levels it's going to be quite hard for you to figure out if you're just starting out. All right, we got to this point. Now you should have a clearer idea of how the SaaS industry and market works. Let's look at the first step that you can take to work as a SaaS copywriter. To get started, I always recommend you pick a niche. What is a niche? A niche is nothing than a subcategory of the market or industry that you want to get into. Do you really need to pick a niche? Yes, and my reasons are 3. First, when you know your market and clients inside and out, because you're focusing on only one niche, it's way easier to speak to them and sell to them. Second, it's also easier to find them. For example, you can look for SaaS specific communities that also narrow down to specific niches and sub-niches as well. And third, and very important point, if you don't want to get crazy in your copywriting projects, when you niche down to one specific type of SaaS company, it's also way easier to manage your client projects because the project structure is going to be the same, because all the different activities that you work on are going to be pretty much the same. So it's basically kind of like having a template and applying it to all your types of clients. When it comes to picking a niche, the main distinction that you have in SaaS is between the different types of markets. So you have B2C and B2B. B2C is business to consumer, so any types of SaaS that sell to direct consumers. So think of Netflix or Spotify, for example. B2B is business to business, so companies that sell to other businesses. Think of companies like QuickBooks for bookkeeping, or ClickUp, which is the project management tool that I use. My main recommendation when picking between these two is that when starting out, I would probably go with B2C. And that's because as a consumer yourself, you are going to be highly likely to understand the product and be able to write about it more efficiently without having to do much research into it. In general, there's going to be less to learn, there are going to be fewer buyer personas and types of customers, so the research is going to be more streamlined, and in general, the strategy work is not so in-depth as for B2B companies. By the way, speaking of learning, if you want to get a framework for learning copywriting, specifically conversion copywriting, check out one of my latest videos where I dive into that. Alright, we covered a lot of ground, and that's why I'm making a part 2 of this video, where we're going to look at my story and how I started in SaaS copywriting. We're going to see how you can land your first SaaS client and much more. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell your friends. Until next time.